Pat and I are having a discussion here about a book that I read, I don't know, about a month ago. It comes out today. Does it come out today, James? James Rollins is here, and he has written a new book called The Devil Colony, a Sigma Force novel. I loved it. I want you to know, I'm LDS. I'm Mormon. Pat is also. And Pat has a problem because the doctrine of the church, if you will, is not accurate or whatever.
Well, there's a few.
Yeah, there's a few things. Yeah, there's a few things
that are different.
But I mean, I don't think we were also. I don't think our founders were also, looking for gold in the belly of a buffalo. So maybe it's just me.
This sounds just how this book started. Was an argument over dinner between two Mormons. They were on opposite side of the fence about this specific issue, and that's how this book started. Was because of an argument.
Really? What was the argument exactly?
They argued. One of the tenets of the Book of Mormon is that the Native American Indians of this continent have a lineage back to some of the lost tribes of Israel.
Yes.
Now, on face value, that might seem like a wild claim, but me as a novelist, I was listening to this conversation, seeing it get more and more heated. I thought, well, if they're this excited about this, maybe there's a story here. So I began doing a little bit of research, and I uncovered some really fascinating information about the very likelihood that there might be a connection between the lost tribe of Israel and the Native Americans.
Yeah, the founders actually believed this kind of stuff. You can believe whatever you want about Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon, whatever. But take that out of it. The founders had arguments themselves saying, these are Jews. The American Indians are Jews. And part of the reason Lewis and Clark went out was because Jefferson was convinced that the burial mounds that you see, what do you call those things?
The Indian mounds.
The Indian mounds around the country were Egyptian in nature.
Yep.
Is that what your research showed you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Jefferson had actually a secret message to Congress before he sent out the Lewis and Clark expedition. It was only released to the Congress. No one else knew about it. And basically it was admitting that he was sending this expedition out as basically spying on the Indians, trying to find out really where are they from, what is their origin. So he was fascinated by that.
Now, have you seen that message? How do you know that message existed?
Oh, it's in the historical record. It's from 1803. You can actually read it online. They have the entire message has been released. You can read it.
It is amazing to me that we have wiped out so much of the Indian history, starting with Andrew Jackson, who I think was just an evil SOB. But it's amazing how we wiped all of this. How this just was lost. All of a sudden, it was just we buried all of the things that would make one curious about what was this civilization that was here.
I'm going to give you one example. By the way, one of the reasons I wanted to come to this studio today was the origin of this book started actually in this studio. I don't remember 2 years ago when I was promoting the Doomsday Key and I came to your studio. I had a copy of Common Sense. I hadn't even started the Next Sigma novel, but I'd read that and I thought, there's a story here. I want to do more research. Washington Seek the Truth. I thought, I want to seek the truth, find out more about the Founding Fathers.
Wow.
And that's when I discovered that connection between the Founding Fathers and the Indians. And the more I looked, the more that connection became deeper and deeper. And I found out basically that there's some evidence that the Iroquois nation, which was a group of 6 tribes, warring tribes, that banded together to form a union 250 years before the founding of our country, formed our own little constitution, and that constitution influenced our constitution.
Okay. I talked to David Barton, because when I read your book, I talked to David Barton, and I called him up, and I said, you know who he is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. And I said, David, the Iroquois thing. And he said, absolutely untrue. He said, there are people that fight and say that it is true. He says it's not. What is your evidence?
The Iroquois influence theory, back about maybe 20 years ago, it was very well accepted. Then it sort of fell out of favor. And now it's becoming a bit more in favor. And I'm not going to argue how much the Iroquois influenced the Constitution.
Right.
I believe that they did influence. And let me use one example. John Rutledge, the South Carolina delegate to the Constitutional Convention, stood up in front of the convention and said, okay, I'm going to read from this Iroquois Constitution. These are the words he read. "We the people to establish a union for peace, equity, and order," which is almost word for word to the preamble of the Constitution. So how much of that, the Iroquois Constitution influenced ours? Congress passed an act saying that we were influenced. The first President Bush also basically did a speech saying, yes, our Constitution was influenced by the Iroquois. I don't know how much it was influenced. I think there was an influence. The question I want to raise, and this is something I thought was really intriguing, definitely uncontestable that the Iroquois had a very unique system of government. They basically were a representative form of government. Women were involved in their government. It was very egalitarian. Where did that come from? 250 years before, there was no type of government like that anywhere in the world except on this continent. And where was it located? It was located in what would eventually be the backyard of the 13 colonies. They're right next door to us. Why did that happen? So I did more research into that. Where did the Iroquois learn that Constitution? And what I discovered was that book of law, the book of peace that was the basis for the Iroquois Constitution, came from 2 Indian prophets. They sort of appeared out of nowhere with this basically new form of government. And when I say prophet, that's an Indian word I'm using. I'm not just making that word up. That's the word that the Indian tribes used for these 2 men, Indian prophets, came basically with this law of peace. So it makes me wonder, you've been talking a lot about the firm reliance of the protection of divine providence. It makes me wonder how far in the past did that start? Was the seed started much earlier than even the founding of this country? Was those prophets put there in the past, basically, again, in the backyard of our own 13 colonies?
Yeah.
Of all the planet, right in the backyard of the 13 colonies, is unusual.
What is the part of the seal? It's been a while since I've read it. The seal, and is this true about the seal with the number of arrows and everything else? Tell me about that.
The Great Seal, everybody knows about the Great Seal, the bald eagle holding the olive branch in one claw, the bundle of 13 arrows in the other. It goes back to, again, a story about one of those Iroquois chiefs. His name was Conexatego. He was basically the rock star of the colonial era. He had the ear of the founding fathers. He did a lot of speeches, and at one treaty convention, he met with Benjamin Franklin. He gave Benjamin Franklin an arrow. And Benjamin Franklin said, what's this for? And then he took it back and he snapped the arrow in his hands, gave the pieces back to Benjamin Franklin. And then he turned around and grabbed a bundle of 13 arrows tied together. He tried to break that across his knee. They wouldn't break. He handed that bundle of 13 arrows to Franklin and said, these squabbling 13 colonies are never going to last. You're only going to be strong if you unite as one. That so impressed Franklin that he wrote about that speech. He published that speech. You can actually go online and read that speech. And Franklin was one of the designers of the Great Seal. He was one of the committee members to design the Great Seal, which, by the way, going back to the earliest forms of those Great Seals, also were tied to
Moses.
To Jewish history. Yeah. They had Jefferson wanted the Jews in the wilderness. Franklin, I think, wanted a different version of it. But basically, again, tying that all together back to the beginning. But again, Franklin was involved. That's why we have those 13 arrows clutched in the claw of the Great Seal.
It is
honoring that suggestion that they had to unite together.
It is not. It is not. And I hesitated. I told when I reached out to you and told you that I love the book. I send the message that this isn't something that I'm comfortable with saying to a mass audience, hey, because it doesn't necessarily reflect on my personal faith in an accurate way. But I enjoyed the book a great deal.
Well, that was the one thing is I'm writing this book for entertainment. I hope to maybe cast a little bit of light on some mysteries and some questions about the founding of this country.
I think the relationship, and I've done a broadcast on this before, the relationship of our founding fathers with the Indians needs to be explored because we have with Jackson, we so wronged the Indians, and we erased their culture. And we have to see that we were not a country set up against the Native American. Many of the Native Americans helped and understood freedom, perhaps even better than we did.
Yep. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and if you look, William Penn was another one that really understood it and got it. The name of the book is The Devil Colony. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. The Devil Colony, a Sigma Force novel. It is available in bookstores everywhere. If you are somebody that has an open mind and wants to look at history and say, whoa, wait a minute. If you're somebody, I like to read books that drive me online and make me look things up and say, wait a minute, hold it just a second. Is that true? Is that true? This is one of those books, The Devil Colony, available in bookstores everywhere. James, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Our sponsor this half hour is FreedomWorks.